So when you talk about communication, there are 7 important C's that we are going to have a look at. But when it comes to these 7 C's, it's not only important for the communication in your workplace, but it is also important for your communication in day-to-day life. But this is one of the vital C's that are important for you in your communication in your workplace. So first, if we look, you have to be clear when you're communicating. If you have some sort of idea in your head or some sort of argument or some sort of point that you need to communicate, you should be very clear and concise. You should be able to explain whatever idea that's in your head very clearly so that anyone of any caliber can understand what you're saying. Always make sure your information is concise. When you're even trying to communicate over an email, or if you're trying to communicate in a code review or even with a colleague, try to have concise information. Talk about the most important thing and try to avoid talking about things that are not really needed. Always talk about correct information. When you're talking with your friends, this is not very important. Or when you're communicating in a university or something in that arena, it's not very important. But when it comes to the industry, correct information is of vital importance, because everything you say is judged on the information that you share or provide to someone else. So always make sure that you share correct information. Also, your information should be complete. You can't go and pitch a feature that you want to add to one of your softwares in a very half-mannered way, because everybody should be able to understand what you want to say. Everybody should be able to understand the idea that is in your mind. So make sure you give complete information. Even if you write out an email explaining some sort of thing, you should make sure that anyone who reads this email should understand the complete idea in your mind. So make sure your information is always complete. And always be courteous when you're communicating in the workplace, because attitude is something very important when you work in your workplace, and you have to be very polite and talk to people very nicely, because passive aggressive communication is a huge problem in the workplace. Like, the way you talk really matters when you're talking to a colleague, when you're asking for a favor, if you're explaining something to another person, if you're at a code review and you want to explain about the approaches you have taken. So be courteous at all times, even not only verbally, but when you're communicating through an email as well. So always provide concrete information. Your information should be correct, your information should be complete, and your information should be concrete. So you have to give exact information that you need. If you're writing out an email and you want to explain one of your features, you need to list them down. The approaches that you're taking, the logic that you're using, the features that you're planning on doing, maybe UI mockups that are related to your feature. So concrete information needs to be provided. And you should always be coherent. So you need to structure your message. So if you're writing an email or if you're giving a presentation, if your information is going to be here, there, and everywhere, it's going to be a huge problem. Nobody's going to understand what you're going to say. So something that I have noticed in the software industry is there are so many people who have amazing technical knowledge, but they are unable to pass on their knowledge to someone else, or they are unable to explain something that they want to tell. So there's a lot going in their mind, but the people who are listening to them don't understand anything. So even if you are a technical maestro, there's no point if you can't communicate your ideas, your feature improvements, feedbacks that you want to give. So remember these 7 C's that when you're communicating in your workplace or anywhere else as well. So now let's look at the benefits of good communication in the workplace. So the first thing that good communication can do in your workplace is help you land an interview. So if you face your interview extremely well, show confidence, talk well, and show off your communication skills, you will definitely get a job along with amazing technical skills. So while you're at your workplace, in order to do your job effectively, so it comes into opportunities where you have to discuss your problems. So you have to come and discuss the various problems that you have, maybe with a lead, maybe with a colleague. So you should be able to communicate properly in order to give the idea of your problem to the other person who's listening to you. You need to be able to request information. For example, think I have a situation where I'm stuck in coding something, or while I'm doing some technical work, or while I'm doing any other work in my workplace, I am not able to move to the next step. So don't be stuck in a step. Always go ahead and request for information, request for help from someone else. So while you're requesting for information, it's important that you explain your situation properly to them. So if you're unable to explain the situation that you're in, nobody else can help you. So make sure that when you're requesting information or requesting for help, you communicate properly and explain your issue properly to them. You need to interact with others in the workplace. So when it comes to a university or at home or anything like that, you can survive alone. You don't have to interact with anyone to move up the ladder. But when it comes to the workplace, you can't survive alone, or you can't move up the ladder without interacting with anyone. So interacting with others is very important in the workplace. You also need to have amazing or good human relational skills. So you can't, I know a lot of people think that you can survive in the software industry if you have a lot of technical knowledge and if you're really good with your technical knowledge. Believe me, that's very wrong, because you need to have a lot of good communication skills and human relational skills as well. Because if you think that you will be able to hide behind your code or hide behind your computer screen, that will let you survive in the industry, but that will never help you move up the ladder. So this is something very important. So the next thing that we will have a look at is how bad communication in the workplace happens. So you might be wondering, if I just talk or if I communicate properly in English, that means my communication is very good. No, but there are other instances that bad communication in the workplace can occur. So one thing is lack of specific communication. Like I mentioned before, you need to be very specific when putting forward an idea or when discussing a problem. So make sure that you give specific information. If you don't give specific information, the workplace is the area where a lot of people invest most of their time. So you will be wasting time of many people. So make sure you give specific communication. So bad communication can also happen if you use the incorrect mediums to convey important messages. So when it comes to communication, there can be different mediums or modes that you use in your workplace. So sometimes discussing a problem with your colleague might not always be the solution. Sometimes you might have to discuss a problem or discuss improvements over a code review, where you discuss your code, you show your code, and your colleagues give you feedback. Also, there might be other mediums where you have to discuss over an email, where you get everybody's feedbacks, members of other teams, not only internally. So you should make sure, depending on what sort of information you want or what sort of feedback you want, that you use the correct medium for communication. So passive aggressive communication is a huge problem, not only in the software industry, but many industries out there. Because I'm sure that most of you would have heard we have a very demanding boss, or we have very bad colleagues who don't know to talk politely. So always in the workplace, even if you're a leader, make sure that you talk to your subordinates or even you talk to your junior employees in a very nice, polite manner. Don't try engage in passive aggressive communication. Engage in courteous communication in the industry. So even if we are given a task, then if bad communication happens, if there is lack of follow through and consideration. Even if you give a task to one of your juniors, it is your responsibility to follow through and make sure they do their task. Doesn't mean that you have to pinpoint them and remind them to do each and every task. That's not what I mean. But you have to make sure you follow through, and you should help them if they're in a difficult situation. You should never blame or be intimidating to others. So if there is a problem, or if one of your code breaks because of somebody else's push, don't go ahead and say, because of your code, my code is not working. That's something really wrong to do. So help that person out, discuss where you went wrong, and then decide, okay, how can we move forward? How can we fix this little issue? So another important thing in the industry is you need to listen. So if you go to some sort of discussion, and if a person is trying to explain, and just by the first sentence itself, if you feel like, okay, I understood, I'm going to go ahead and give my feedback, that is going to be a huge problem. Because listening is something very, very important. That person, even when it comes to listening to a presentation, a meeting, a code review, that person might come and answer your question eventually later. So make sure you listen. So as a software engineer, there are many times that we are going to use communication. So you will use communication to explain a feature that you have developed. So make sure that you use good communication to use a feature that you have developed and explain your feature thoroughly. And then you should be able to defend your approaches used for development. Definitely at a code review, people will ask you, why did you use approach 1 instead of approach 2? Why did you use this code line and why didn't you use this sort of exception throw in here? So make sure you have the good communication skills and you have the talent enough to come and defend your approaches and say, I use this because of this. So you should also give feedback during code reviews. Just like you're expecting feedback from your colleagues, you should be able to give them constructive feedback as well. So another thing that we encourage is communicating with customers. So there are so many people who have ample technical knowledge, but they are not able to communicate it to the person at the other side. So when it comes to WSO2, we are a subscription-based model. So we help our customers resolve their issues. That's how our company functions. So if I myself know how to solve this issue, and if I am unable to guide my customer how to solve this issue, that is a huge problem itself. I might have the technical knowledge to solve this issue, but if I can't guide my customer through this is a huge problem. So communication skills play a vital role when it comes to communicating with customers. So when you engage in technical discussions with colleagues, you have to have good communication skills. So what if you are not able to explain what you want to say and you're wasting another person's time? So that's the working time that person has. That person is allocating to you to engage in discussion. So make sure you engage in technical discussions, even not only verbally, through email, using proper communication techniques. So you are the advocate for your feature when you come to your industry. You develop a feature, you're the main contact point for your feature. You're the one who's going to sort out all the issues that comes to your feature. Anybody who comes with an issue will come directly to you. So you become the advocate of your feature. So we value leadership at WSO2, and leadership is something valued in many industries. So to be a good leader, you have to have a lot of confidence, and confidence comes in ample amounts when you have good communication skills. So you should be able to communicate instructions and requirements clearly as a leader. If you are unable to communicate your instructions clearly, the juniors will never understand what you want to say. The people working under you will never understand. So that results in a bad development or a bad feature, more bugs, more problems. So make sure you communicate instructions and requirements clearly. As I said before, you need to communicate with customers. With a good set of communication skills, you will be able to communicate with customers very well. So you should be able to also share your knowledge with your colleagues and other employees, because when you're in the industry, you can't be thriving alone. You should help others and help them to move up the ladder as well. So make sure with good communication skills to share your knowledge, write blogs, write articles, reply to emails, and share your ideas. So provide feedback. You always need to give constructive criticism and provide feedback to your colleagues. And also when they give feedback, you should understand them well and use them in a needed manner. So next, I will give it hand over the session to Buddhi, who would give you all a more detailed session about how you all can use good communication skills in the workplace. Over to you, Buddhi.
Thank you, Kavishka. Okay, Kavishka actually talked about general aspects of usage in communication in your professional career. But in my section, I'm going to discuss what are the specific occasions that you have to use and showcase your communication skills effectively during your career. The first one is sessions. We have sessions related to knowledge transferring sessions. We present some of the features to customers, as well as we do community calls to introduce new features and bug fixes to our community. Those kind of things we have to conduct as engineers. So these are this is the one main topic that we have to showcase our effective communication skills. And the second one is reviews. We have to face, as Kavishka mentioned, code reviews, even architectural reviews and design reviews. At that time, we all the colleagues in your team come to a common place and check whether your code, your architecture, and your design is according to the standards that we follow. At that time, we have to effectively communicate our ideas and our thoughts to the to our colleagues. As well as the third one is customer handling, as Kavishka mentioned. When I interacting with the customers are the foundation of a company, because without customers there's no company. When I interacting with the customer is not interacting with myself, Buddhi. He's interacting with a representative from WSO2. You are representing WSO2. You are representing your company. So you have to showcase and your effective communication as a representative of your company. And the final part, the first three parts actually really essential when you enter to a professional career. But when it comes to email etiquette, even now you have to practice these kind of things. For example, when you interacting with professors, when you conduct your final year projects, and when you organize these kind of sessions, you have to write emails to each and every professional. At that time, you have to follow effective email etiquette. Okay, let's dive into the sessions. I want to start with one of my personal experience. When I just entered to a new team, at that time I was developing through some GRBC level features. At that time, my leader contacted me and asked me and said to me, Buddhi, we are going to do a community call related to the feature that you are developing. Would you able to conduct and lead that specific community call? I said yes, and finally I had actually 1 or 2 weeks to prepare, and after 1 or 2 weeks preparation, I conducted that community call. And put yourself into that same position. If you don't have any technical knowledge at that time, 1 or 2 weeks is enough to learn specific technology. You can go through documentation, you can even go through YouTube videos and find out the details related to that specific technology. But if you don't have such communication skill, you can't master your communication skills within 1 or 2 weeks. You have to showcase your communication skills at those kind of sessions. For example, you can't learn communication skills within 1 or 2 weeks. It takes years and years of experience and work around to master your communication skills. So when it comes to a specific session, at that time you have to do more and more research related to the topic that you are going to share. For example, let's say you are going to talk about specific technology. It is not going to work if you constrain all the things related to a specific technology. You have to think about the broader picture, because audience might ask several questions related to the things that you are not thought about. Because of that, just think about the out of the picture, out of the box, and do extra bit of research when you conduct these kind of sessions. And for example, one of the example is when I prepared for my final year presentation. At that time, I prepared for around 30 slides that are actually I'm going to present, and I prepared more than 50 slides for Q&A, because lectures might ask different questions. At that time, you have to be prepared. When lectures ask actually these kind of questions, I had different slides that I prepared for each and specific question. And the next one is you have to present your content in a well prepared way with slides, and you have to always start from the basic, because your audience have different kind of technological skills. Because of that, you have to put all the audience into a common place when you start a presentation like that. And try to include more stories, because as human beings we really like to remember, and we really like to listen to stories. Because of that, it is better to include your stories into these kind of sessions. Then audience will remember the content that you shared even after they leave the room. If those kind of stories are humorous stories, then the probability of remembering these kind of stories are really high. But in a professional presentation, you can't do that. Instead, just try to add 1 or 2 stories to your session or presentation, then it will be an extra advantage. And the most important thing, practice. You have to practice multiple times. Even when you do final year presentations, you have to practice it more than 10 times before you conduct that actual presentation. And the second one is reviews. When you do reviews as sessions, you have to do extra bit of research, because you are doing code reviews for a more technical audience compared to a session, because your colleagues, your team members consist of team leads, senior software engineers, different kind of level of competencies are there. Because of that, they are very technically sound. So you have to cope with that, and you have to do extra bit of research to address that kind of audience. And also you don't need to start from basics, unlike sessions. The reason is, in many cases, your audience is technically sound. Because of that, you don't have to start from basics. They already know the basic stuff that you are going to share. Unless if you really have some kind of a new feature that you are introducing, at that time you have to start from basics, obviously. From in general case, in 80% case, you don't have to start from basics. And use diagrams if necessary. Even in code reviews, we use diagrams as per the requirements, but don't add so many diagrams into your review. The reason is it will deviate from the core concept that you are going to share. Instead, use 1 or 2 diagrams that appropriate. And also, as I mentioned previously, your review should be technical sound, because the audience is already technological people. Because of that, it should be technical rich. And the final and important thing, even in a review, you have to practice a lot. When you just enter to a new company, if this is a first code review of you that you're facing, at that time, practice is essential. But when you move on your career ladder, at that time you will understand that when you get more and more experience, you don't need to practice anymore, because those things embedded to yourself. And when it comes to customer handling, as I mentioned, customer handling is the basement of a company. You have to first analyze the issue. As Kavishka mentioned also, when you interacting with customers, you have to listen to them. You have to analyze their issue. And then the most important thing is think from their perspective. Put yourself in their shoes and think why they face these kind of issues. What are the things that they did wrong, and what are the things that we did wrong as developers. Think of their perspective as well as a developer perspective. And when you find out the solution, explain the answer politely. And also, customers are always not technologically rich. Because of that, even in this scenario, you have to start from basics. Use lists, use step-by-step procedures, as well as use flowcharts to explain your answer clearly and concisely to the customer. And the final and the important part as undergraduates, email etiquette. Here, in the right side, I wrote some kind of mock example email that I wrote to my final year supervisor. And this is the list that you have to master when you write a proper email. The first one is you have to be very professional in terms of tone and the salutation that you use. For example, in here, I use salutation as dear sir. You have to use, when you write professional emails, dear sir or dear madam. But in our company culture, we have the practice to use hi, but it is only relevant to our company culture. Don't use in a professional email. Instead, you have to use dear sir or dear madam as a professional salutation. As well as the third one is font. When you don't try to add more and more fonts to your email, because I have seen some people tend to add some different kind of fonts to highlight themselves. Don't do that. Try to follow my suggestion is to follow and use the default fonts that these email providers gave you, because they have done multiple research even before they selecting that font as the default font. Because of that, try to use that font as your default font. And as the next important point, you have to structure your emails. Use list. In here, I have used different kind of lists. Here, I showcase a list as a list of items, and add reference as essential. When you refer to a research paper, at that time you have to finally, at the latter part of the email, you have to add references. As well as the important part is keep it concise and clear and make it to the point, because most of the professionals don't have much time to read lengthy emails. Because of that, you have to keep it concise and clear and to the point. Just use 2 or 3 paragraphs and don't add unnecessary details into your presentation. And try to always check grammar, because it is really essential to use plugins like Grammarly. At that time, while you are writing the email, it will check your grammar. If you made a silly grammar mistake in your email, that would showcase your unprofessionalism in your email. And some other tips that you could use to improve your email etiquette, email usage, write proper email, is use signatures appropriately, as I show in the latter part of the email. And don't use emojis, because emojis will decrease the professionalism of your email. Careful about the humor that when you add such kind of stories or humor into the email, because normally professional emails are not humorous ones. Always proofread your email as much as you can, because it will show after multiple proofreads you will find out many mistakes that you made. If it's a really crucial email, it's better to proofread from one of your friends, one of your colleagues, because it is really essential email. They will find out some of the mistakes that you made. If you practice these things, email etiquette, if you think about the sessions conducting, finally your presentation, reviews, as well as customer handling, I think you can be a better professional.